Welcome back to another edition of Between Two FARS. I'm Warnicki Miller, and I am joined by Tracy Lee Belford. She is an attorney here at NASA and has been working for NASA for almost 30 years, primarily at Kennedy Space Center, but she also did a tour of duty at Dryden, now Armstrong. Her practice in contract law has been so helpful and beneficial to the agency. And recently she settled a very large construction case. And we've been talking about the important lessons learned and what we need to be applying as we move forward. One of the big areas that she's got some fantastic insights on has to do with the organization and use of photographs. Because, just taking that photograph doesn't mean you're going to win the case. You have to be able to access the photograph, identify there is so much that you need to know about taking and storing your photos so that when it comes time to resolve that dispute, all of that evidence you've been taking will be useful to NASA. So here's Tracy Lee giving you everything you need to know about taking, managing, storing, and producing photographs for your contract dispute. Tracy, what did you learn on this case?
More than I wanted to learn, let me put it that way. For a project as big as ours, there were literally tens of thousands of pictures. And what we quickly realized was that the people on the NASA side had taken pictures on personal cell phones, they'd taken pictures on government cell phones, and they'd taken pictures using cameras. And sometimes things were uploaded right when they'd been taken and put somewhere. Most of the time, not immediately uploaded or just uploaded into a folder and nothing else ever done with the pictures. What we also realized was how much people are using their government cell phones to take personal pictures and the burden that it places in a discovery context on the attorneys involved as you're looking through a bunch of pictures and there's Bob's Sunday picnic with his family and the 4th of July and his car shopping excursion, things like that. So we really spent a lot of time talking to the client about how to effectively use pictures and photographs on a project.
And that's maybe an important point to foot stomp is if you do have a government issued camera or cell phone and you're recording things on it for work, be very careful intermingling the personal stuff because during discovery, all of that stuff can be requested and it takes a lot for the attorneys to sort of defend not having it released. And sometimes, well, we were talking about this before the filming back probably 25 years ago when I was 20 years ago when I was working for the Air Force litigating a construction case. I went and was able to get photos developed because I was back when they had the slides, the films that you had to go develop the film strips. And the contractor had taken photos of the job site to prove a case against the Air Force. And it was job site, picture of Hooters waitress, job site photo. And I had an awfully good time during the deposition on that one to kind of show that they weren't taking their work seriously. They were goofing off. They were spending their lunch breaks at Hooters, photographing and flirting with waitresses. And, we don't want something like that to be used against NASA employees. So yeah, don't intersperse your granddaughter's birthday party or your barbecue or your picnic in with the work photos on your phone. What other sort of lessons learned did you get through this litigation when it comes to photographs?
So sort of associated with that, one thing that the engineering organization recognized was that they just didn't have a big enough budget for government cell phones. And so a lot of the people running the project were actually not given a government phone. And as we sort of all know in this day and age, using your cell phone to take a picture just is the easiest way. And most people tend to use that. No, not a lot of people carry around separate cameras. But a lot of these people were then taking pictures with their personal phones, which introduces a whole other aspect of turning over things in discovery and trying to make the argument that they're not entitled to see, everything else on that phone because it's a private phone. But it sort of turns that private phone into a government phone if they're using it all the time to text contractors, to text other coworkers, and to take pictures on a job. So one of the things in the lessons learned was they were going back to the institution and asking for that larger budget for certain kinds of projects, even if it's just for the length of the project, or a way to create a pool where you can go get a government phone or camera, digital camera, to use on the project and then return it to that pool when you're finished, so that we can sort of eliminate the problem of using personal cell phones on the job. So that is sort of these pictures are being taken and all of the problems associated with the how.
Now, once you've got all the photos, how do we treat them? Well, what are some best practices for managing all of these photos?
So one of the things that we have asked the engineering folks in particular to do on a project is there usually needs to be a reason that you're taking a picture. If there's a specific reason that you're taking a picture, something's wrong, for example, maybe a joint isn't welded properly and you're trying to show that bead of weld, then take those pictures, but put them in a very specific folder that has a specific name that is associated with the reason that you took the picture. And even if you have some extra time, you can create a document like a memo to file, and you can drop these pictures into that document with a little bit of narrative saying, hey, I'm Joe Smith. I took these pictures on Monday the 3rd, and I took them because the contractor says this is this kind of weld. We think it's this kind of weld. Here's the picture. Here's where it's, not connected all the way. Here, whatever the situation might be. And that way you've created sort of a concurrent document with the photograph that's been taken, because a picture with zero context, with no narrative, it's not in a particular folder, it's just in with a bunch of other pictures. One can argue all day long what that picture is actually showing. And even the people who took the picture later, they'll look at a picture and go, I don't know why I took that. Or I'm not sure what that shows. Or I think it's the 5th floor. Well, no, it's the 3rd floor. One thing that's the one thing that became actually quite complicated, because there were a lot of pictures that could have been very useful to us. We had no idea how we were going to make that happen, because it was literally in a folder with, 4,000 other pictures and no other sort of notation or anything like that. So
I think a lot of people might just say, well, why are you worrying about all that? The photo has metadata. It tells you the date it was taken. It tells you the camera it was taken with. Can't we just rely on the metadata? What kind of response do you have for somebody who's wanting overly reliance on the metadata?
So metadata is only as good as the tool that is doing the taking. And you and I kind of talked about this too, especially with a digital camera, if you don't have it set up or calibrated, it could potentially have the wrong date or no date at all. A lot of times you have to allow a camera to pinpoint not only a location, but the time, place, and other things. And once you've done all that, even then, if you move a picture around a lot or save it to a new drive, which we also found in some of our discovery process, it can actually change the date in the metadata, and you'd have to dig pretty deep to find its origins. But at first glance, it will look like it was taken yesterday or that morning whenever you put it on the drive. So it's really not that foolproof, and relying on metadata to document anything isn't probably going to help you, because in 2 years, are you going to remember if the picture's metadata says it was taken on February 24th? Do you know what happened on February 24th, 2 years after it happened? So probably not.
Excellent. These are some wonderful insights and helpful tips for all of us as we work through our projects and incorporate photographs into our official government record. Please follow these wonderful points of advice to track and categorize all of the photographs that you're taking, because you can never be sure when a contract dispute may arise. Tracy Lee, you have just given us so much wonderful insight, and we really appreciate your time on this subject. Join us here again next time for another exciting episode of Between Two FARS.